That is the hardest part of that ring.
For the hardest part of the ring.
Hello, everybody, and welcome
The hardest part of the ring.
Hello and welcome to episode 38 of Hardest Part of the Ring, the podcast where four friends get together to discuss the wonder of professional wrestling. My name's Adam, and today I'm joined by not one, not two, but three beautiful men.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey.
Sam.
2.5 men.
Sam is here, hello.
Hello.
John is here,
Hello.
and Brett is here.
Hello.
Who's the half, by the way, Sam?
I think I'm a bit shorter than you guys, so maybe me. Although I'm twice as wide, so I don't know now. I'm just spitballing. You're very skinny and small. You're the half.
Oh, okay. Ouch.
Okay, bit of a dig. Yeah, come on.
He
let's
didn't
be
like
nice to
that.
each other.
I need to get on that protein. Need to bulk up.
We had such a lovely weekend without Sam, and straight back in, and he's taking digs. Unbelievable.
I'm sorry.
Harsh
In the
beams.
previous podcast, I was compared to Rikishi. Who this week has broken a wrestling ring? Can we just tell the
Yeah.
straw poll?
Yeah, very true. I thought you were saying Rikishi'd broken a wrestling ring, which would have been
Oh
incredible.
no! Rikishi hasn't broken any. Two members of this pod have.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. We'll get to that. Listeners, hello. As you will have seen from the title of this podcast, we're going to be talking about the reasons why we love wrestling. This is a top 5 podcast. But before that, for the first section, we're going to briefly touch upon a wonderful weekend of wrestling that we had down here on the South Coast. So if everyone's ready, we'll do that after this.
Oh my God! X-Plex on the side of the ring!
So the weekend that just passed saw the climax of Riptide Wrestling's first year in the business with their Brighton Championship Weekender. We've had 3 days of amazing wrestling, although we weren't all there at the same time, were we, Sam? You were unable to come to any, and we did miss you.
Work is work, bruh.
We had a double shift in
Did you
Burger
just
King.
say bra?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Are we
bringing it.
saying that?
Is that not a thing?
Should be.
Well, it is. It's a thing that supports females' breasts.
Females?
Yeah, definitely cut that bit out. Okay, anyway, yeah, Sam wasn't there at all. Brett was there for the Thursday and the Friday, and John and I were there for the Friday and the Saturday. Brett, totally gutted that you couldn't be there for the final night, but I know it was out of your control. 16 wrestlers entered the tournament, just one was victorious, and it is official that Chuck Mambo is now Riptide's first ever champion.
Yay!
Hey, ho, mambo.
Mambo.
Yeah, so before we get to that, because we will talk about that final, of course, and what happened after it. But I just wondered, you guys, any particular standout matches from the 3 days for you? I mean, there were so many good matches.
There were a lot of good matches.
Yeah.
Obviously, it wasn't there the first night, but Star versus Ridge Ray was beautiful and savage.
Yes, agreed.
On the first night, Devlin versus Fletcher. That was immense. Obviously, Aussie Open versus Ringkampf.
Yeah, that was good. Timothy Thatcher is a fucking specimen of a man, isn't he? Jesus Christ. Tall, cut to shit. My God.
John, you were getting quite hot under the collar. When
It was very hot in there, but
Yeah.
I was even
Oh,
hotter.
and also, can we just mention for John's benefit as well, the awesome match that was Session Moth and the Dark Destroyer versus Anti-Fun Police.
Yeah, come on, John. What do you think? What did you actually think? Because you were sceptical about this.
I was
Dave Brady
very
Phillips
nervous about this
appearance.
match. Even had levels of anxiety. I was that nervous about it because I thought it was going to be awful. But it was actually really fun. I did laugh. I had a good time.
There we go.
I'm not
He
going
did
to
a
lie.
good job.
When I read about this match, I thought it was a terrible idea.
Yeah.
I did not look forward to it at all. I thought it was a little bit kind of maybe jumping the shark, but
I can see that. I can totally see that. I know, having spoken to Josh about it a couple of times, he was quite aware of that and maybe slightly worried that might be the people's thoughts. And really, he wanted to get him in because he's like a local legend. rather than
well,
just
yeah,
trying
absolutely.
But then, obviously it went very viral, and I'm sure it helped sell a fair few extra tickets. But it was a lot of fun.
That's a really good way of looking at it. Like, we all used to work in Brighton, and that is very much like one of our in-jokes was always Dave Benson Phillips. And so it was nice to kind of see that it's not just us who kind of had
his
that
Twitter
Brighton
account
feeling.
was quite depressing, if we were honest.
Oh
But
my God,
yeah,
I kept checking on him to make sure he was still alive at some point.
But he did well. He did well. I mean, what he had to do, he did very well. I thought he didn't botch. He didn't fall over. Nothing terrible happened. And in fact, a couple of his moves looked all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And the rest of the people in that match are just pure class.
Yeah.
When it comes to, like, especially those matches, they're so funny.
It's a really good idea teaming them up with Session Moth, especially against the anti-fun police as well, because like that's really leaning into everyone's strengths there of kind of, if you're going to put a comedy wrestler in, that's the place to do it, I think. Yeah,
absolutely perfect. And obviously at the end of that match, everybody but Dave ended up in the gunge, which looked revolting. It looked like a massive,
so gross
thing of vomit, didn't it? Yeah.
It's meant to taste amazing.
Really?
Yeah, the gut. Okay, so like when they used to put kids on like Nickelodeon and kind of Get Your Own Back and shit like that, they used to basically fill the gunge with like sugar and stuff because they'd be covering kids in it and they didn't want them to cry, so it'd be like, oh, at least it tastes nice. And fun story. I think they do that for porn as well.
I'm sorry, what?
We can cut that. Don't worry.
No. So, John, if you're editing this section, please leave that in. Anyway, let's move on quickly. A couple of other amazing matches. Basically, everything that Aussie Open was involved with. So we talked about the two singles. What we didn't mention, Davis's singles match, but their singles matches on the first night were great, from what I've heard. Aussie Open versus Ringkampf, of course. I mean, that wasn't announced, that match, but if it had been, that is just such a great matchup. I just heard on the Q&A that Josh from Riptide just did on Instagram that apparently they got Thatcher booked and they really wanted to put that out there and promote it because they knew it would sell a lot of tickets. But Volta insisted that it would be a surprise because they knew it would be amazing for him to come out and then Thatcher come out. And it was huge.
It was
huge.
Great
Match. And then on the third night, Aussie Open versus the brand new tag team of Head Bangarang, El Fantasmo and Angelico, who obviously I thought were the same people anyway for a long, long time. That was so fun, so much fun. They had a big slow-mo section in the middle. Obviously, they're always very amusing, but this one in particular was just so good and so cleverly done. So loads of great matches, and obviously the tournament itself, we won't spoil all the different results, apart from the fact that we know that the final was between Spike Trivet and Chuck Mambo. A lot of people may have predicted that, but it wasn't any less satisfying. And Chuck Mambo became the champ.
Yeah. It's a great match as well, like really brutal. The bit where Mambo went flying through the chairs.
Oh God.
I saw photos of that. Like, I haven't seen chairs go flying at Riptide yet like that, so that I'm gutted to have missed that as well.
It was great.
It seems a bit strange that kind of like Mambo and Trivet are like your final two there, because like those two, they haven't really crossed paths in Riptide thus far, have they?
Well, that's why, in a way, I guess it kind of worked, because it was the good and the evil coming together at the end. The main babyface and the main heel.
But it's kind of like, like Spike Trivet's story is very much intertwined with Jack Sexsmith. Obviously, he wasn't in the tournament, but I mean, like kind of the whole Chuck Mambo, Spike Trivet, it's just like they're two very, I don't know, they just seem very unrelated to each other in Riptide's current.
Yeah, I get that.
I think it just works in the essence that Mambo is Riptide's golden boy and Trivet is Riptide's bastard.
Yeah,
sure.
It was a classic heel versus babyface match. It works really well.
Yeah, and there are a couple of things that happened during the match which I've avoided mentioning on our WhatsApp group because I'm hoping Brett has avoided some of the spoilers. Obviously there's a big one that he probably will know about, but there are a couple of other things that happen which I won't mention here, which hopefully people will check out on demand, and they just work things really well, storylines that have been going on throughout the year, and I thought it was excellent.
A match full of drama.
So much drama, and then obviously Chuck won, and what happened? most of the crowd rushed the ring and jumped in with him. Now, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people there who thought, what the hell are these people doing? But Chuck had put out a tweet earlier in the day which said, if I win, I'd love the crowd to join me in the ring. And so that's what people did. John and I, what happened, John? Sort of held back for like a few seconds, like, nah, I'm not going to do that.
I think we had a few looks at each other, like, shall we do it? Shall we do it? Let's do it. I was trying to convince my wife, like, we should totally do this. Let's do it. Let's get in the ring.
We couldn't miss the opportunity to get in the ring. First time ever, and I totally fucked it. It was so shit. I like crawled in, got my back stuck on the rope, and then it was awful. I'm so pleased there were loads of other things going on, and there was no focus on me because that was terrible. You never get your first time again, and I totally messed it up. But we got in there, we were jumping up and down, and then it just felt a bit strange, didn't it? It felt like it was starting to bow a bit, and then suddenly it sunk at the front side, and people will have seen the photos online. But the ring is broken. So I think
you guys broke the hardest part of the ring.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
legit.
We did.
Oh my God, owned it.
You're so right. 2 of the hardest part of the ring guys got in there and literally broke the hardest part of the ring. Maybe it's not that hard after all. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, there's info online about how to chip in if you want to for a new ring, but up to you if you want to do that. I could go on about Riptide for a long time. In fact, I made quite a few notes, but maybe we'll do that in the coming months because we've got a little barren spell now where they're not doing any shows until November.
Really, that long?
Yeah, they've had to cancel the next 2 shows due to basically financials getting in the way. But they go above and beyond on absolutely everything, so it's not a surprise that they don't really have much spare cash lying around. But yeah. I think we're all agreed it was bloody amazing.
I had a super weekend. I still feel rough now.
Yeah, I must say that the adrenaline afterwards, like after we got out the ring, I had a couple of goosebumps moments during the final, and then to get in that ring and be jumping up and down, and then for it to break and come out, my heart was pumping. The adrenaline, like as I travelled home, and when I got home, I stayed up for ages because I was just totally pumped. It was so much fun. So much fun. Just gutted Sam and Brett couldn't be there with us.
Next time, eh? Next time.
Yes. Okay, so that's Riptide talked about, and after this short break, we'll do our top 5 reasons we love wrestling.
Oh, face first into the apron of the ring. There's very little padding there. A dangerous area. It's not wrestler friendly, I can tell you.
So, top 5 reasons we love wrestling. This is actually our 5th top 5 to date. If you haven't listened before, then episode 6 we did top 5 wrestlers' ring gear. Episode 14, top 5 entrance music. Episode 17, top 5 stables. And our last one, episode 28, which was definitely a favourite of ours, was our top 5 wrestlers to help you survive the apocalypse. I'm struggling to say it because it was such a monumental podcast. But today we're going to focus on the top 5 reasons we love wrestling. Simple as that, really. Obviously, there's been a fair amount of sort of unsavoury things going on in the industry recently, but our weekend at Riptide reminded us just how brilliant wrestling is, and we really just want to celebrate that by discussing all the reasons we love it. So that's what we're going to do. As usual, we've each brought 3 selections to the table, and we're going to take it in turns to put our cases forward, and then we're going to hear what you guys think at home and what you've suggested before whittling it down to the final 5. So without further ado, let's get started. John.
Yeah.
Why do you love wrestling?
So I'm actually quite glad I get to go first because I think one of you might have picked this, if not. But one of the things I love about wrestling is wrestlers in neck braces. Nothing fills my heart with joy as much as the image of a big muscly wrestler with one of those weird little cushiony neck braces.
That is amazing. I was wondering if we were just going to go for like the big generic reasons, and I'm sure some of those will get discussed because they are important. I'm so pleased you went so niche so early on.
I'm just going to put some links in the chat, just as discussion points. Sorry, listeners, This isn't very audio friendly, but it's just let's think about the neck brace wrestlers use. It's kind of that weird, slightly off-white colour, very padded.
A big bit of foam, basically, isn't it?
It's just they just look ridiculous, and it just I just love it. It's funny.
It kind of looks like they kind of ripped open a sofa,
Yeah.
just got out a bit of padding and just put it around the neck and like, that'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Good choice.
Strong.
Okay.
That's
Brett?
it. We're done. We've got the top 5.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. Is it me now?
Yes, Brett. Go ahead.
Okay, so, well, I'm gonna be a bit more serious, and I'm gonna go corny, and actually something we've already mentioned, so I'm not gonna go on about it long. But Riptide for me actually is something that I hadn't experienced in wrestling. I'd been to a couple of main shows, but going to an indie show on your doorstep and the quality that they've put on, for me, it's just like such a massive reason why I am so into wrestling again at the moment.
Ah,
I have to say, like that, you know, like I've taken a few newbies, and each of them have asked, you know, like, who's your favorite, like, you know, of the roster or the people that are there. Like, there's going to be one person, but actually, like, every time I think about it, there's like a whole, like a, you know, handful of people that are just so good to be able to see right in front of you, and like I can never say just one person. You know, I'm always like, oh, these people are really great, and those are great, and you know, the wrestlers are selling the merch. The seeing Walter versus Speedball Mike Bailey, like I've never seen a match like that on TV or anything. It was just another level for me. So yeah, this is going to be a reason why I love wrestling.
so what is that reason? Like live wrestling, or is it Riptide specifically? Or?
Well, it's having that sort of quality of indie show on your doorstep. You know, like I know shows have been going on in London and stuff, but like it's such a pain to get up, and you can't go regularly because, you know, it costs so much, and travel back is always like a massive nightmare because shows go on till X time and trains always finish like, you know, 15 minutes before that back down south. So it's just having that quality of product on your doorstep that you can see regularly.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's amazing some of the names that Riptide have managed to get, and the fact that we really don't have to travel. Apart from you, Sam. Sorry, Sam.
Also, the community they built there as well is great. Like, everyone's really friendly and chatty. It's got a nice vibe.
Yeah, the community. That's actually one of my choices, and I'm up next, so that's handy. So I've basically just gone for community spirit, because, you know, basically when I got back into wrestling, thanks to you guys, at no point did I ever think that I'd end up making like a load of new friends and feeling part of a community the way that I have with going to Riptide. And I didn't really even think that I'd necessarily go to watch wrestling. I just thought it'd be something I'd watch on the telly and we'd talk about. And obviously the podcast started, and here we are. I'm going to Riptide every month. And so it's the community spirit. I know most promotions have it, definitely, but the vibe at Riptide is so good, and I know we're in danger of just becoming a massive Riptide loving podcast, but there will be other reasons to love wrestling as well. But, you know, this is just our experience. Everybody down there is so friendly. You get a really nice mix of different ages and nationalities and things, and obviously it helps that we've been able to meet a lot of our listeners down there. So, you know, shout out to those guys, people like Will Superkick and Carl and Duncan and Amir from the Smart Plug and Heelnick Payne, MJ and all those guys. And when we got in that ring on Saturday night, it was just one of those sort of moments that's just going to live with us forever, really, isn't it? And you know, and the fact that the wrestlers are part of that community as well, and they socialise with the fans and always happy to chat, and it's just great to be able to meet loads of new people and really feel part of something.
That's such a good point. Like, kind of one of the nicest things about the current kind of indie wrestling community is very much that it's welcoming, but it's tight knit as well. Like, kind of, you never feel too far removed from the wrestlers. And, you know, if you had a criticism of WWE, it's very much a kind of corporate. They are the wrestlers. Everyone else are the fans and the spectators. And kind of indie wrestling, you don't get that.
I'd say as well, since I never really spoke to any wrestling fans at shows until we started doing this podcast, and since then it's been sort of really cool just talking to people at shows, talking about wrestling, meeting new people. It's lovely.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, like on the first night of the tournament, I was there without any of you guys, and I got chatting to a couple of the guys, and it's just it's a good community. It just makes you feel welcome, and actually, like, you know, you're not sort of I'm a very unsociable, sociable person. If that makes sense. So I find lots of those situations really difficult, but have like some people start chatting to you in that essence, it just makes it that much easier.
Yeah.
And that much nicer.
Oh, how lovely. How lovely. Okay, yeah, so that was my first suggestion, community spirit. Sam.
Okay, so my first one is very much when you just kind of stop to take a second and you just realise how ridiculous wrestling can be. So, a few examples here. We got Kenny Omega wrestling a 9-year-old girl. It's
Classic.
a classic. Final Deletion.
Another classic.
Yeah.
Any Toriano match. And my number one favourite, and the one I want to actually talk about, is Kota Ibushi once wrestled a mannequin for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
He defended a title against him. It was amazing. Genuinely, it's better than any Baron Corbin match I've ever seen.
You could list a whole load of Kota Ibushi moments, couldn't you?
He is one of my favourite people in the world, and it is because he is just completely batshit insane. And he's brilliant at what he does, but he's an underrated lunatic.
Yeah.
So, just the ridiculous. Any kind of comedy that kind of works for me.
I mean, we talked about it earlier, Session Moth and the Anti-Fun Police and Dave Benson Phillips. That is completely ridiculous and it shouldn't be good. And,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is the thing. It's like kind of wrestling is pantomime, isn't it? It's, hero versus villain. It's, it's so black and white that kind of comedy is just, it just lends itself very well to it. And I really enjoy it a lot.
Yeah. It's a mix of all possible entertainment that you could go see. Like they have everything in there.
Absolutely.
They have the sport, they have the drama, they have like the, circus tricks, like, Kota Ibushi fireworks into his chest, like just insane.
Yeah.
Jerry Lawler still does fireballs.
Yeah. I mean, I was watching a match earlier today of Kenny Omega versus Daniel Bryan. And you look at that match and you're like, oh my God, dream match. And they do a 5-minute skit where they basically call each other John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. It's hilarious. It's just two of the best wrestlers in the world being dicks, and I love it.
I love the wrestlers. There's so many that have that ability to do amazing comedy, but then also fantastic wrestling matches. Like people like David Starr, Pete Dunne. There's loads of them who are just able to do it all.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and it is ridiculous. Yeah. Agreed. That is a great shout. Back round to John then. What's your second pick?
My second pick is going to be the language of wrestling.
Yeah.
I love how wrestling has its own sort of weird language and phrases and words that only mean anything in the world of wrestling.
Yeah.
Or
like
podcasting now.
Yeah, or podcasting. Like kayfabe, heel, babyface, a dusty finish, getting colour, bump.
You're such a smart mark.
Smart mark, yeah.
Yeah. I experienced that on the Thursday with some people that went that hadn't been, and I was just saying, no, that guy's the heel and this guy's the face. And like another guy was translating. And I was like, oh yeah, you have no idea what that means.
Yeah, it's just wonderful.
It just becomes so natural, doesn't it? In your day to day.
I love the phrase "get juice." Like, so good.
I even said, in another WhatsApp chat with some other people, I was like, oh, this guy got so much heat, and one of my mates was like, what does that mean? He's like, what do you mean you don't know what getting heat means? Isn't that really obvious? But obviously it isn't. Yeah, good choice. The language
that one's
of
going over.
Yeah, going over. Oh. Yeah, you're massively into wrestling when you start using that language in your day-to-day life, which I do quite regularly. Okay, Brett, your next choice.
Okay, so what I love about wrestling, and what probably was a massive part of me getting into it in the first place, was trading cards.
Oh yeah.
And my WWF Classic set that I collected in those first flourishing moments of like seeing wrestling and then collecting the cards, because I love trading cards. I was well into trading cards, and them, collecting all those, and therefore like having them help me know who all the different people are that I was seeing on the shows and stuff. It just added that extra element that really hooked me.
I must say I've never done trading cards or stickers.
Yeah. Me
My
neither.
first
really?
exposure to wrestling was a sticker album. That's how I kind of got into it. Yeah.
See, that kind of, it completely passed me by that. Like, you talked to me about sticker albums, I think Premier League,
Football,
not
exactly.
wrestling.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the fact that I've got five different versions of Ian Wone that I need to try and get rid of. That's aged me.
Who the hell is Ian Wone?
He used to play for Forest. I genuinely had so many copies of this Ian Wone sticker one year, and he had really weird lips. But anyway.
I had the same with Colin Hendry.
Oh,
Brett,
yeah.
who's the wrestling card equivalent of Ian Wone?
Yes.
Ian Wone. Oh my god. Who did I get loads
Who
of?
did you have loads of swapsies?
One of the guys from
It's got to be like
Power and Glory.
Ah.
What was the smaller guy? I had a bunch of him. Was it Paul Romano? Am I making that name
I'm not
up?
sure. I was thinking like it might be like Headbanger Mosh or like
Oh, yeah.
one where you're like, oh, I'm not sure which one this is, but it's one of them. Kind
The
of.
Repo Man, maybe.
Yeah, right.
I'm having flashbacks to episode 1. I think we talked a bit about this and how Brett used to have all the trading cards and stuff. And we definitely talked a lot about how we all got into wrestling and stuff. So that's worth a listen if you haven't already.
Yeah, Paul Roma. Paul Roma was the guy. He was one of the tag team, and like because you used to get like cards of each one, sort of thing. So you just end up with duplicates of that guy.
Nice. Trading cards. Okay. Me to go now, I think, is it? Yeah. For my second pick, I'm going to go for gimmicks.
Gimmicks.
So
good.
Obviously,
Good, strong
quite
choice.
a wide thing, but just basically the wonderful variety of characters that we've all learnt to love or hate over the years. And it kind of links into Sam talking about how ridiculous wrestling is, but how we don't even question how ridiculous some of these characters are and who they are and what they're actually doing with their lives. So I made a little list of some of the biggest characters, some of the best gimmicks, just to read out, just so we can all sort of bask in their glory.
You always look for a way to put Papa Shango in, don't you?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Oh, yeah.
Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Macho Man Randy Savage, The Undertaker, Bret the Hitman Hart, Mick Foley, Ultimate Warrior, The Rock, Goldust, Legion of Doom, Razor Ramon, Papa fucking Shango, Vader, Apollo Crews. That last one is okay. But yeah, there's so many iconic characters, and you could just easily pick them out just from, even if it was just from two of the colours that their outfits are. If you think about the iconic red and yellow from Hulk Hogan, and obviously the pink for Bret the Hitman Hart, and the accessories, and it's just amazing, basically. So gimmicks.
Absolutely. On that subject, I would say kind of I love a good parody gimmick, kind of like Velveteen Dream or John Morrison, like kind of just basically, hey, imagine if Prince was a wrestler. Now you don't have to. Here he is.
I thought you were going to go with Gilbert there for a second. I think certainly as a kid as well, it's definitely those gimmicks that sort of draw you in, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
Like I was obsessed with like Andre the Giant, Ultimate Warrior, and Hulk Hogan as a kid.
I mean, I was the same with Kane.
And Tatanka.
Yeah.
Oh, Kane.
And that's true. And that's why, especially with WWE, when it's a family product, a lot of the time it doesn't really matter how good they are at wrestling, as long as they're a big personality and a big character. So.
Big is the right word there as well. That always helps.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, that's my second pick. Gimmicks. Sam, what is your second pick?
Kayfabe kidnappings.
Oh,
Come
that's an
on.
excellent choice.
Come on.
Amazing.
On a
Right, put that in the top 5 already.
on a
that's
weekly show, someone gets kidnapped, and then everyone's just like, "Well, I guess that's a thing then." For a whole week before they're then like, "Is he still in the boot of your car? Or what's the deal here?"
Yeah, why are they downstairs in the basement of the arena? A different arena they were in last week. They sort of transported them over here.
I love a kayfabe kidnapping. Like the most recent one I can think of was Bray Wyatt kidnapping the Undertaker and Kane, and stealing their powers. And I was just like, "Wow, cool! Kayfabe's still alive," and It's brilliant.
I mean, yeah, in the sort of late 90s, early 2000s, it felt like Stephanie McMahon was kidnapped at least once a month.
Yeah, she was like the Princess Peach of wrestling. It was bad times.
Yeah.
But just some kidnappings, and the Undertakers were the best because they always ended up with someone being put up on a cross.
Yeah.
God.
It's just an incredible.
Or some awkward cutaway scenes with Midian.
Oh my god! My favourite was just like the Undertaker going through a spate of kidnappings, of basically just getting a bunch of jobbers and turning them all into the Ministry. Fantastic stuff.
Amazing. Yeah, good shout. Should we go back around to John for his third pick?
So my third and final pick, I'm going to be a bit controversial here. I'm going to go with WWE.
Ooh. Oh, I mean, it's right though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's why we all love wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, so much about what I love about wrestling is from the WWE. The characters, the matches, the moments. They're all from WWE.
Every person I read out then was from WWE.
Yeah. I mean, Vince has built a company which was a regional promotion into like a global brand. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can't argue
They
with
are
that,
the
really.
most probably because they're on TV all the time, but the most story based, like I think that's where
they have the chance to do it.
It like the wrestling, often does take a bit of a backseat because the story is for WWE, I think, all important, and that is what keeps us still watching WWE. I think now, when we've got all this other stuff to consume, you still watch WWE for the storylines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, although having read half of the recap of last night's Raw before starting the podcast, some of those storylines they've got at the moment are very poor.
We get totally frustrated with them as well.
Yes.
Yeah, but with the big pay-per-views like SummerSlam and WrestleMania, you sort of put that aside, don't you? Like, who cares? It's a big occasion.
Yeah, I can't wait for SummerSlam. It's going to be great.
I mean, love it or hate it, it's the flagship. That's the thing.
Yeah,
it is.
Like, you think wrestling, you think WWE.
Yep.
You do. Correct. Yeah, good shout. Brett.
Okay, so...
Baron
do you like wrestling?
Corbin.
Yeah. No, do you know what? I don't like wrestling. Well, I guess this is going off on your gimmicks, but being very specific, I guess, and into like a wrestler and a current one, and it's people like Naito that make me love wrestling. When you've got someone that is as skilled a wrestler as they are, like in the ring, but has charisma off the charts, like they can just walk in to to the arena and you're already transfixed at everything he's doing. Like, I just absolutely love.
That's so
there's
true.
a few, but I think there's something about the not what's the word I'm looking for, the fact that Japanese wrestlers aren't necessarily what we're used to seeing. Like, WWE has had the odd one or two over the years, but in my recent sort of getting into New Japan and then seeing someone like Naito and just seeing where he came from, but how he is now.
Yeah, there's nothing better than that sort of bad boy baby face as well.
Yeah, the one that doesn't care but does care, and just
that's tweeners.
Yeah,
back
totally.
into your language.
Totally, yeah.
Brett, it's a quick spot check. We're 37 episodes in now. What faction is Naito leading?
Los Ingobernables de Japón.
Oh, fucking pro.
Absolute pro.
Amazing.
Stunning.
I'll do that myself.
So Brett, so that pick is to boil it down to one, so it's just Naito.
Yeah, it's Naito.
Okay, fair enough. We'll take that.
I've just got to write top 5 contender next to that.
Okay, I'll go next with my final pick, and I did have a couple of other sort of big, sort of generic ones, but I think our listeners cover a lot of those later, so we can get to those. So I'm going to go specific, and I'm going to go for chops.
Oh, that's a good choice.
Yeah.
Specifically, if I had to be specific, which I've decided I have to be, I'm going to go for Volta's chops. But chops just generally the least fake thing in professional wrestling, I'd probably say. The sound you get from a good chop, the sweat flying everywhere, the welts that appear on the chest of the person who's taken that chop, the pride in which those wrestlers then show off those welts on the backstage photographs afterwards. It's
Adam,
just...
you might be into S&M.
Oh God! Please tell me you agree with me, and I'm not just some weird kink.
No, it's my favourite move in wrestling.
I'm not going to kink shame you on this. That's okay.
For me, like I've always loved like the technical side of wrestling, but when you see someone like Walter chop someone, you cannot but appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about what we list as our favourite matches that we've seen live, the majority of them have been because they've been very stiff and they've involved either some very big kicks or some very big chops, and in a lot of cases both.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think also everybody, and again, this might just be my weird S&M side, but I think everybody secretly would like to know what it might feel like to take a chop from, if not just a friend, then a wrestler. Not Volta, okay? I'm not calling out Volta right now.
It sounds like you are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'd like to give a chop. I'd like to receive a chop. And I like watching chops. I'm a chop addict.
I'd definitely like to see what it feels like as well. But...
I mean, you're selling me on it. You really are.
Yeah. No, I'm all good. I don't need to experience a chop, especially.
You can watch whilst me and Adam practice at SummerSlam.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll all chop each other. Sorry. Okay, so chops for me. Sam, final pick.
All right, final pick. All right, so I've got quite a few to go from here. I'm going to go for, when you're younger, you don't actually know whether wrestling is real or fake.
Definitely.
And I loved that so much. It was like, you know, like the kind of the mystery behind Santa. It was like that, but with violence. And it was such a great discussion at school all the time, and like trying like the moves that clearly don't actually work in real life. Like, I still don't understand how a Stone Cold Stunner is meant to hurt someone, but my God, did I try like a million of them? And it's fantastic. Like, kind of, you know how you have those discussions about like, oh, mankind is a bit actually of a psycho, and it's just like, just sticks a sock in someone's mouth, or like kind of like. When you have like that kind of, well, if it's fake, what about Owen Hart? And everyone's like, oh.
Wow, you took that to a dark place. Jeez.
No, seriously, that
went from sock in the mouth to Owen Hart in like 10 seconds.
Greatest kayfabe storyline of all time. Just wait for next year's WrestleMania.
They're playing the long game.
Surprise
Sam's
running.
not being controversial there. That's definitely a conversation he had on the playground. Definitely.
I really
definitely.
hope that's not just me, but like, I think the thing is it's just kind of that mysticism around it. Like, kind of, I don't know if it still exists in the playground, like with the propagation of the internet, but when I was a child, when I was in school, you know, the discussion of wrestling was something that would take up hours and days, and it just kind of was. I didn't get good GCSEs.
That shows, mate. That shows.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just kind of the mysticism, I suppose.
Yeah, really good. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Okay, what I'll do then is just quickly run down our 9, and then John
12.
Oh yeah, so used to having 3 of us. I'll read out our 12, and then John can read out the listener submissions, and then we can narrow it down. So we had wrestlers in neck braces, wrestling on your doorstep, community spirit, how ridiculous wrestling is, the language of wrestling, trading cards, gimmicks, kayfabe kidnappings, WWE, Naito, chops, and thinking it's real as a kid. So a real mix there. John, surely the listeners have been a bit more sensible about this.
Yeah, they've got some very good suggestions. Okay, we've got old Mr. Beerface. He says it's knowingly ridiculous, idiotic, and wonderful, often all at once. But the top reason is the escapism factor, the general sense that they're all living on an entirely different planet, and the entrance themes.
Oh, yeah.
Entrance themes. How did none of us mention that?
The thing is, I thought you guys were going to do it, so I didn't bother.
Well, I guess we have done a whole separate top 5 about entrance themes. So
do you know what? This is the 4 Horsemen missing out of the stable episode all over again, where we all just thought it's too obvious. None of us did it.
Yeah, I think you might be right. yeah, just go back to episode number 14 and hear us talk about entrance music and why we love it there. Okay. Next up.
Okay, Smart Plug Wrestling. God damn it. It's a soap opera, magical interaction with fans, the fact it can make friends at any indie show. If you're lucky, a referee will wear your hat, and the very finest of us have the opportunity to break a wrestling ring.
Yes, that's obviously Amma from Smart Plug. During that slow motion sequence with Aussie Open and Headbangarang, they had a bit where Kyle had... Actually, it wasn't slow motion, it was at the start of the match. Kyle was wearing a load of people's hats and people from the crowd were chucking them in, and Paz, the ref, wore Amir's hat. And then, he got in the ring as well. And Amir is a massive man, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. He's just a big, tall man, so I'm sure it's really his fault that the ring broke.
He was like a greyhound, though, as soon as Mambo won that title. Like, straight in there.
Yeah. I mean, I must say, this is something I wanted to mention earlier, actually, but forgot. If you do want a more in-depth review of Riptide and the 3 nights, then Smart Plug, probably the most prolific wrestling podcasters around, they did a review for each day. So there are 3 separate episodes. Goes into a lot more detail on each match. And
and
really
they know a lot more about wrestling than we do as well.
Oh, fuck yeah. Oh, my God. Honestly, they know all the moves, all the names. They know absolutely everything, all the history. And I listened to that review of the 3rd night the day after, and it really helped me to sort of remember loads of little things I'd forgotten. So I heartily recommend you go and check that out. But back to submissions. Sorry, John,
okay,
go ahead.
No, it's fine, Adam. You interrupt me whenever you feel like it.
Okay.
Heel Nick Payne's been in touch. He said...
One more thing that I really wanted to discuss.
I mean, on the subject of which, let's talk about interruptions. Because that's a great one we missed out.
Interruptions. Yeah. You're so right. There's so many things. Anyway,
you ready? Anyone got anything else you want to... No? Okay, cool. So Heel Nick Payne's been in touch. It says, takes me back to my childhood nostalgia. It's my comedy action drama who needs soap operas. It's something me and my brother bonded over, not only in youth, but as adults too. Nice. Recently, I've met great people through indie wrestling, like us. Hey!
Oh, stop it, Heel Nick Payne. Stop it.
Finally, it brings heroes and villains to life.
It does.
Yeah.
That was one of my missed out ones, actually. It was that kind of, for me, wrestling is like a Saturday morning kids cartoon. Like, you got the heroes, the villains, they fight each other. One person wins, and then next week they just do it all again. And I love that.
Yeah, I always describe it to people who don't like wrestling as it's like watching superheroes fight.
Yeah, I think it's a fairly apt description.
It's great.
What if they don't like superheroes?
Then I wouldn't be talking to them. Yeah. Like, if you don't like wrestling or comics, then I've got no time for you. I'm sorry.
Fair.
I was going to say, don't alienate anybody listening to it. I doubt they'd be listening to this podcast if they didn't like wrestling, so fuck those guys. Next.
Finally, Cole Luckhurst. It's the purest form of entertainment. The ability to make friends, particularly at Riptide. Interaction with wrestlers themselves, both in and out of the ring. The major excitement of a great storyline or great match. And number 5, Spike Trivet.
Fair.
Very good.
We've got 2 final ones as well, which were quite Riptide-centric, so left them to the last. We've got Will Superkick. He says, Spike Trivet, Spike Trivet, Spike Trivet, Spike Trivet, and the Dark Destroyer.
You missed out Spike Trivet.
And we've also got Alice has got in touch. She says, Chuck Mumbo, Aussie Open versus the Headbangarang slow-mo match. Jack Sexsmith at Brighton Pride. It's me, it's DBP.
That's really good.
And finally,
that's really good.
Spike Trivet being the perfect heel. Excellent choices.
And the perfect gentleman as well on our pod.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. Spike Trivet deserves so much credit because obviously he hasn't come away with the title, but the work that he's done in Riptide and the fact that he's getting better and better in the ring, bravo to him.
Second best heel in wrestling, in my opinion.
Who's the first?
Ciampa, it's got to be, right?
Oh, yeah, right, of course.
Amazing. Perfect. That was a massive shout, but I don't disagree. Okay, well, thank you very much to Alice and Will and Carl and Nick and Amir and old Mr. Beerface, whose name is actually Alex. Right, so now we need to narrow it down. We've got 12, and we need to narrow this down to the final 5, which is going to be very difficult because obviously we've had a lot of good suggestions, and there's just so many great things about wrestling, as we saw from the listener comments as well. Shall we start off by maybe getting rid of a couple that maybe are too specific or won't work. So you know, I think we all agree Naito is great, but
I like Naito, but I just don't think one single wrestler is kind of enough to make a top 5. Of things we love.
One of the coolest wrestlers in the world, but not cool enough, I'm afraid, Naito.
Yeah.
No.
He'll appear in other top 5s that we do, I'm sure.
Can I make a shout to maybe cut WWE? Because they induct racists into their Hall of Fame.
And murderers. Let's not forget murderers.
and murderers, and, you know...
I think that WWE is, in a way, the number one reason why we all love wrestling. But I agree. I sort of agree that let's just get rid of it and go for the points that sort of cover all wrestling. Yeah? Or are you against that, John?
I was all for cutting it. Like, I'd crossed it off my list, but then you said it's the main reason we all watch wrestling. Well, that's a very good point. We wouldn't even be sat here having this conversation if it wasn't for WWE.
Yeah, totally. It's a definite for me, I have to say.
Yes, that's funny because I agree. When I said that, I was like, hold on.
That's fair. All right, how about let's kind of cut one of neck braces or kidnappings.
Kidnappings are better than neck braces. I'm happy to.
Well, can I chuck in chops, because I think neck braces, kidnappings, and chops are 3 of the
holy
really
shit
nitty gritty things. That
okay, can we just get rid of tables, ladders, and chairs and have neck braces, kidnappings, and chops? Because that is the next pay-per-view I want to watch.
Oh, that would be
neck
so
braces,
good.
Kidnappings and chops. Fucking hell, yes. But yeah, I think we should only have one of those 3, personally.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Okay. Would you prefer neck braces or kidnappings?
Kidnappings, I think.
Kidnappings.
Yeah.
Would you prefer kidnappings or chops?
Kidnappings. They're just funny in wrestling. They're always there. It's great.
Yeah.
It would be hilarious. I haven't, especially at a live show, it'd be great to see a kidnapping story.
Yes, I want to see Spike Trevay kidnap someone.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past him.
We've given them ideas.
Anybody got a shout for guaranteed inclusions?
I want to make a shout for the language of wrestling being in that top 5.
Yeah, me too.
I love that.
Okay. I'm not guaranteeing that myself, but I'm going to circle it and say it's pretty much there. Gimmicks?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely gimmicks.
Where would we be without gimmicks?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically we're saying we've got the language of wrestling, gimmicks, WWE, and kayfabe kidnappings, which means we've only got one left to pick out of wrestling on your doorstep. I think we should get rid of that one because a lot of people don't have it on their doorstep. We're very privileged and lucky, and it is a very good reason, but probably not in the top 5. Happy with that?
I wish it was on my doorstep.
Exactly. It doesn't even apply to Sam. I mean, community spirit is great, but again, it's maybe one that just refers to indies and indie shows.
Yeah.
We could ditch that.
What about one of the listener suggestions, entrance themes? I love a bit
entrance themes are very strong.
Yeah. I think it's got to come down to entrance themes and how ridiculous it is.
Can I just say, in regards to how ridiculous it is, currently at this point in time, famous dick wrestler Joey Ryan is currently kayfabe dead. I'm just throwing that out there. He was murdered. We think it was Adam Page. We just don't know.
Wow.
I mean,
wow, that is amazing.
Wrestling is ridiculous, and that is the height of it for me.
I think that if we have gimmicks, WWE, kayfabe kidnappings, and then entrance themes, I would then be up for swapping the language of wrestling for just how ridiculous wrestling is. Because then you could have the language under that.
Guys, can I make a suggestion that kind of like, we love the language, we've got the gimmicks, got WWE, kind of with comedy or entrance music, like, why don't we just put kidnappings into the umbrella of comedy and just kind of say how ridiculous wrestling is, which kind of embraces the chops, the neck braces, the kidnappings. It's mental. It makes no sense. I love it.
Yeah, I think that's great. So that basically means we've got the language of wrestling, gimmicks, WWE, how ridiculous wrestling is, and then entrance themes. Are we agreed with that?
Oh God, definitely.
Yeah.
Entrance themes.
Wrestling without entrance themes would not
Can
be
I?
good.
I mean, can I just point out, like, kind of Kane's entrance with the pyro?
Top notch.
Like, that's an entrance.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, well, that's it then. We've managed to round it down to our final 5, and they are the reasons we love wrestling, the language of wrestling, gimmicks, WWE, how ridiculous wrestling is, and entrance themes.
This top 5 is going over.
It is. It's a really weird top 5, because obviously, all the other ones we've done have been quite a bit more specific, and especially when it's just picking individual wrestlers. So this has been a strange one to do, but a really fun one to remind us why wrestling is so great. You guys happy with the list?
Super happy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good. Fantastic. That is it then.
Back of the neck of Charlotte into the hardest part of the ring, courtesy of Carmella.
Give it to Carmella, wisely using the ring to her advantage.
So next podcast, we will be back in 2 weeks' time. We're going to take a week off because we've done 6 weeks in a row. So we'll be back for SummerSlam. We're all watching it at Brett's house, so we'll record a little bit of the podcast straight after that, and you will hear our review then. Brett, just quickly, how do people get in touch?
They can email us to hardestpartofthering@gmail.com, or they can catch us on social media, which is Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, and we are at Hardest Part Pod. And if you want to buy any t-shirts or badges from us, head to hardestpartofthering.bigcartel.com.
Amazing. Thank you, Brett. Thanks everybody for listening and downloading and continuing to support the podcast. We really appreciate it. Until next time, in 2 weeks' time, it's goodbye from me, Adam. Goodbye from Sam.
See ya.
Goodbye from John.
Goodbye.
And goodbye from Brett.
Bye.
And that was the hardest part of the ring.
That is the hardest part of that ring.